Welcome to the Spirit Soul Series podcast, and we are back with another episode with Supriya Chechi. So we're going to continue the 11th chapter, 14th verse, and we're going to do the incantation before we start.
Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you, and Jai
Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada.
Uh, Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवसादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So we
Krishna.
have, we have here in verse 14, Arjuna has already acknowledged what he saw. He's now we are told that his whole mood has changed. So shall we read? Yeah, the verse first.
Yeah. Tataha sa vishmayavisto. Oh, you want to read the actual English translation?
No, no, chant the verse. Sorry, I meant
Okay,
chant the verse three times
okay,
as we usually do.
okay.
Tatah sa
Tataha sa vishmayavisto. हृष्टरो मादनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिराशा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत
Tatah
तथा
sa
स विस्मया
vismaya
विषंविष्टो
vishto
हृष्टरो मादनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिराशा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत
once more. Tatah sa
ततः स
vismaya
विस्मयाविष्टो हृष्टरो मादनञ्जयः प्रणम्य शिराशा देवं कृताञ्जलिरभाषत.
So this vismaya here, it is one of the secondary bhavas or rasas. A vismaya, it's given here in the word-to-word translation. It means being overwhelmed. Okay, overwhelmed with wonder. Because Arjuna's
Supriyaji,
mood, yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I'll just need to put my laptop on charge.
yeah,
It's like
sure,
low charge. Just
sure,
1 second. Sorry,
sure.
word. 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Laptop on charge. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So his mood has changed to one of wonder. Earlier, it was one of casual friendship. Casual, not in an offensive or negative sense, but he was just very relaxed with his cousin Krishna. But now for Arjuna, the whole mood has changed. He is bewildered, astonished. His hair is standing on end. Here we have the translation. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. So, there's a whole mood change here, or a change of rasa. This, right. Yeah. Would you like to read the purport, please?
Yeah. Purport is once the divine vision is revealed, the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna changes immediately. Before, Krishna and Arjuna had a relationship based on friendship, but here, after the revelation, Arjuna is offering obeisances with great respect, and with folded hands, he is praying to Krishna. He is praising the universal form. Thus, Arjuna's relationship becomes one of wonder rather than friendship. Great devotees see Krishna as the reservoir of all relationships. In the scriptures, there are 12 basic kinds of relationships mentioned, and all of them are present in Krishna. It is said that he is the ocean of all the relationships exchanged between two living entities, between the gods, or between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Here, Arjuna was inspired by the relationship of wonder, and in that wonder, although he was by nature very sober, calm, and quiet, he became ecstatic. His hair stood up, and he began to offer his obeisances unto the Supreme Lord with folded hands. He was not, of course, afraid. He was affected by the wonders of the Supreme Lord. The immediate context is wonder. His natural loving friendship was overwhelmed by wonder, and thus he reacted in this way.
Okay. A little later, little down the line, he does become afraid. Though here it's being pointed out that he was not afraid, it's just that he was overcome by wonder. But you will see this change a little later, right? Next verse. Now the meter or the way we chant this changes here, because if you see, the
Yeah,
sentences are much shorter. It becomes like how the meter we used to chant the Bhagavatam. I show you
okay.
here. Arjuna
Okay.
Vacha पश्यामि
Arjuna.
देवांस्तव देवदेहे सर्वास्तथा भूतिविशेषसङ्गान् ब्रह्माणमीश ब्रह्माणमीशं कमलासनस्थं ऋषीं च सर्वान् उरगांश्च दिव्यान्. Let's try.
Arjuna
पश्यामि
Pashyami Devam
देवांस्तव
Devadehi
देवदेहे
Sarvam Tata
सर्वास्तथा
Buddha Vishesha Sangan
भूतविशेषसङ्गान्
Brahmanamisham Kamalashana Istam
ब्रह्माणमीशां
Rishimscha
ऋषीं
Sarvanuragamscha Divyan
Divyan. Once more. Arjuna
Vacha
Vacha
Pashyami
Pashyami
Deva
Devanstava
Tava Devadehe Sarvamstata Bhuta Vishesha Sangan
Visheshasangan
Brahmanamesham
Brahmanamisham
Kamalasanastam
Kamalasanastam
Rishimscha Sarvanuраgamscha Divyan
Sarvanuragam. Once more. Arjuna Vacha
Junavata Pashyami Devamstava Devadehe Sarvamstata Bhuta Vishesha Sangan Brahmanam Isham Kamalasanastam Rishimscha Sarvanuраgamscha Divyan.
Please read the translation.
Arjuna said, My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents.
Okay, this is straightforward enough. It's just extraordinary that Krishna is granting him a vision of everything in one place, because these personalities are otherwise scattered all over the universe. The demigods are in their planets, which is a different stratosphere, if you like. Brahma seated on the lotus flower, Lord Shiva has his own planet, and all the sages and divine serpents. But here, Krishna has made sure that it is all in one place. purport. Please read the purport, Kannan.
Arjuna sees everything in the universe, therefore he sees Brahma, who is the first creature in the universe, and
Yeah.
the celestial serpent upon which the Garbhodakshai Vishnu lies in the lower regions of the universe. This snake bed is called Vasuki. There are also other snakes known as Vasuki. Arjuna can see from the Garbhodakshai Vishnu up to the topmost part of the universe on the lotus flower planet where Brahma, the first creature of the universe, resides. That means that from the beginning to the end, everything could be seen by Arjuna, who was sitting in one place on his chariot. This was possible by the grace of the Supreme Lord Krishna.
And just remember, in an earlier verse in the purport, Srila Prabhupada points out that others on the battlefield could not see this form because Krishna gave the vision only to Arjuna. So the demigods could see it. That's why they start throwing flowers from the heavenly planets where they reside. Sanjaya could see it by a special arrangement that Vyasadeva made for him so that he could narrate to Dhritarashtra, the blind king, although Sanjaya was so far away from the battlefield and inside the palace, right? Excuse me.
So, just
Yeah,
one thing in this, only Sanjaya, that means only Sanjaya and Arjuna
the
could see this,
demigods, also all
or
the
demigods
demigods,
also could see it. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
whole lot of demigods were observing from higher sphere, and that's why they throw flowers, which we will be told later. And it's already been mentioned, it will come again.
Okay.
Okay, right. The 16th verse. Aneka bahudara vaktra netra
अनेकमवद्वेदितं पश्यामि त्वं
sarvatonantam
सर्वातोऽनन्तरूपं नन्तं न मध्यं न
napunastvadim
पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप
vishwarupa. Twice more. Aneka
अनेकबहुधारवक्त्रनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वं सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपं नन्तं न मध्यं
namadhyam
न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप
again.
अनेकबहुधारवक्त्रनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वं सर्वतोऽनन्तरूपं नन्तं न मध्यं न पुनस्तवादिं पश्यामि विश्वेश्वर विश्वरूप.
Right, translation I'll read. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere, without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Gosh. Purport is just one line, a single line. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead and is unlimited, thus through him everything could be seen. Okay. Now, now we are going back to the earlier tune or the earlier meter. Just see, because the sentences in the next verse, the shloka, are back to our regular length.
कीर्तीनां गणीनां चक्रिणं च तेजोरसिं सर्वतो दीप्तिमातं मान्तं पश्य.
Just 1 minute. You're reading from the English or you're reading from the Devanagari script?
The English one.
English. So watch out. For example, Kirit. I'm sorry, I mispronounced. It's Kiritinam.
Kiritinam.
Because wherever there is a mark over a alphabet, it's a long one.
Long one.
Over the I, there is a diacritical mark, right? So it's Kiritinam Gadi. Kiritinam Gadinam Chakrinam
Chakranam cha tejo rashim sarvato diptimantam
Mantam. No
mantam
there is no long Deepti Mantam. Okay, because the
pash
meaning changes usually. If we elongate it where there's no mark. Pashyami
pashyami tvam durnirishyam
Samantad
samantat
Deep.
diptannalarka dyutim aprameyam.
Okay. Let me see if why we can't go back to the earlier meter with this particular verse. I thought we could, but it seems we can't. I'm wrong. Okay. So we stick to this Bhagavatam type meter which we were chanting, that same tune now, even for this verse. Let me try. You can chant along with it.
किरीटीनं
Kiritinam
गदिनं
Gadinam
चक्रिनं च
Chakrinam Cha Tejo
तेजोराशिं सर्वतो
Sarvat
दीप्तिमान्तम् पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यां समान्तात् दीप्तानालर्कद्युतिम् अप्रमेयम्
Once more.
किरीटिनं गदिनं
Gadinam
चक्रिणं च
Chakrinam
तेजोराशिं
Sarvat
सर्वतो दीप्तिमान्तम् पश्यामि त्वां दुर्निरीक्ष्यां समान्तात् दीप्तानालर्कद्युतिम् अप्रमेयम्.
Translation: there's no purport here. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. Wow. Okay, just more and more descriptions from Arjuna of what he's seeing in front of him. See, all right, the next one, let me just try and chant in the old style and see if the tune comes, and then you join. Twamaksharam paramam veditavyam twamasya vishwasya param nidhanam tvam avyaya shashvata dharma gopta sanatanastvam purusho mato me. Yeah, it's possible. Twamaksharam
त्वमक्षरं
paramam
परमां
veditavyam.
वेदितव्यं
It's like
त्वमास्या.
the first verse
Yeah,
in the Bhagavad Gita. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre.
कुरुक्षेत्रे
Same tune. Samaveta. Okay. Twamaksharam
त्वमक्षरं
paramam
परमं
veditavyam.
वेदितव्यं
Paramam veditavyam.
त्वमास्या
Twamasya
विश्वस्य
vishwasya param
परं
nidhanam.
निधानम् त्वम् अव्ययः स शाश्वता धर्मगोप्ता
Twamakshash
सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे.
Twice more.
त्वम् अक्षरं
Twamaksharam
परमां
param
वेदितव्यम्
param veditavyam.
त्वमास्य
Tvam
विश्वास्य परं निधानम् त्वम्
param
अव्ययः
nidhanam.
शाश्वता
Tvam
धर्मगुप्ता
abhyaya
सनातनस्त्वं
Sanatanastvam
पुरुषो
purusho
मतो मे.
mato me.
त्वम् अक्षरं
Okay.
परमां वेदितव्यम्
Sharam paramam veditavyam.
त्वम् आस्य
Tvam
विश्वास्य
asya vish
परं निधानम्
param.
त्वम्
Tvam
अव्ययः
abhyaya
शाश्वता धर्मगोप्ता
shashvata dharma gopta.
सनातनस्त्वं
Sanatanastvam
पुरुषो
purusho
मतो मे.
mato. Right. Translation. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all of this universe. You are inexhaustible and you are the oldest. You're the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. So this is Arjuna's his realizations after seeing. It's like when we are forced to go through some very terrible situation, we usually come to a quick realization of what otherwise reading the Bhagavad Gita several times hasn't made us realize. That is like, say, this world is full of sorrow and misery, dukhalem ashashvatam, or else everything is temporary, matter is temporary, unreliable, always changing, only the spirit is eternal. Sometimes this is called smashan vairagya. That is, after a visit to the smashan or the cremation ground, even if it's not your immediate loved one who you've gone to cremate, just somebody else, you tag along or you're expected to go, and seeing so many bodies on the pyres, it can have a terrific effect on you. Usually it's that kind of realization is short-lived, and the scriptures describe it a little bit contemptuously as an inferior type of vairagya or detachment, because it is short-lived, it will pass, and it is called smashan vairagya. But in some cases, or in some several devotees, it has had a lasting impression and made them really question things. Someone witnesses a death, it makes such a impact. They begin to ask, what happens after we die? What happened to all this man's achievements before he threw himself off the balcony of some top prestigious IIT or whatever? Where do we go, and so on. So in Arjuna's case, this is not his realization under the shock of the vision that he has. It's just solidified what he already felt, but by bringing about a change of mood. He always knew Krishna was the Supreme Personality. It's not that he doubted Krishna's words. They've been having a very long dialogue on highly philosophical matters, but just this vision that has been granted, it is like for Arjuna, the practical illustration of everything he'd been hearing in theory, that Krishna is the beginning and the end of everything. He's the cause of all causes, all that. Right. Verse 19.
अनादिमध्यान्तम् अनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वं दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रम् स्वतेजसा विश्वामिदं तपान्तम् अनादिमध्यान्तम् अनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रम् स्वतेजसा विश्वम् इदं तपान्तम्
Again.
अनादिमध्यान्तम् अनन्तवीर्यम् अनन्तबहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रम् पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रम् स्वतेजसा विश्वम् इदं तपान्तम्.
Okay, please read the translation and the purport that follows.
Translation: You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance.
Okay, gosh. So now is where the fear will set in, because it's a fearful sight. Earlier we've been told that he was not afraid, he was just overcome with Adbhuta Bhava or Adbhuta Ras, which is one of the secondary rasas, or Vismaya. It is a wonder, astonishment. But now he's describing, I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth. Now that's definitely a very fearful sight. Burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Purport, please read.
There is no limit to the extent of the six opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here and in many other places there is repetition. But according to the scriptures, repetition of the glories of Krishna is not a literary weakness. It is said that at a time of bewilderment or wonder or of great ecstasy, statements are repeated over and over. That is not a flaw.
Okay, any idea what is meant here by the six opulences of the Supreme Lord?
There are some six I'm not sure what are the opulences.
Okay, right. Basically, it is see, wealth, power, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Okay, because anybody who has any of these qualities, even in a limited degree, is automatically someone who stands out in the crowd, who's got a great following, who's enjoys certain position even on the material platform. So wealth, we know that. I mean, a wealthy person commands so much, especially in today's Kali Yuga. Power, right? Fame, beauty, certainly. knowledge and renunciation. These are the 6 qualities. And therefore, Krishna is called Sarvaishwarya, meaning one who has all these 6 qualities in total. Right, so there is no limit to the extent of the 6 opulences here, and in many other places there is repetition, right? Because it's not a literary weakness. Now, verse 20.
Dyava prithivyodam antaram hi vyaptam त्वायैकेन दिशाश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपम् उग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यातितं महात्मम्
Again,
अपृथिव्योरिदम् अन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वायैकेन दिशाश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपम् उग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यातितं महात्मान्
once more.
द्यावापृथिव्यो इदम् अन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वायैकेन दिशाश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वाद्भुतं रूपम् उग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यातितं महात्मन्.
A translation, please.
Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed.
Purport.
Dyav a Prithivyoho, the space between heaven and earth, and Loka Trayam, the 3 worlds, are significant words in this verse because it appears that not only did Arjuna see this universal form of the Lord, but others in other planetary systems saw it also. Arjuna's seeing of the universal form was not a dream. All whom the Lord endowed with divine vision saw that universal form on the battlefield.
Okay, so it wasn't a dream. All whom the Lord endowed with divine vision saw that universal form on the battlefield. So clearly here it's like hinting that there were others also who were given the divine vision. Okay, so we'll discover that as we go along. 21.
Ami
Tvam
Amiti tvam surasanga vishanti kechid bitaha pranjalayo grananti swastiti uktva maharshi siddhasangaha stuvanti tvam stutibihi pushkaladbihi
Ami
amihi tvam surasanga vishanti केचिद्भीताः प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीति उक्त्वा महर्षिः सिद्धसङ्घाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः अमीहि त्वां सुरसङ्गा विशान्ति केचिद्भीताः प्राञ्जलयो गृह्णन्ति स्वस्तीति उक्त्वा महर्षिसिद्धसङ्गाः स्तुवन्ति त्वां स्तुतिभिः पुष्कलाभिः.
All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you, some of them very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying, all peace, right, are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. The demigods in all the planetary systems feared the terrific manifestation of the universal form and its glaring effulgence and so prayed for protection. So mind you, there are some like 3 crore, I'm not sure about the exact number of demigods.
330 million or something they say, no?
Some big number. So they have been given the vision or they are able to watch because they are superior beings from the higher planets. And they are beginning to get frightened at the sight.
Actually, this
Yeah, go on.
sorry, I just had one like doubt in that. So it's like, um, so in both the cases, like in the case of Arjuna and even in the case of the demigods, they're getting like afraid of the like the universal
Universal
form.
form. Yeah.
So like in my, I don't know, I'm thinking like if they know that it's like the universal form is Krishna, uh, why what would be the fear in that though? Like I mean, obviously it must be scary, but I'm thinking like if they know it's the universal form, like if it's Krishna ultimately, like would
Because
there
I
be an
think
issue?
no, Krishna he has manifested manifested on a scale which is several times multiplied by what they usually used to. So that can be a very overwhelming experience. I
Okay.
mean, we see a river, right? We see a river normally, but when we see it in flood or in speed, even in the YouTube video recordings that are coming out of Himachal Pradesh, for example, in the recent rain and flooding, we still know it's the river, but it's just so scary the power with which it is moving. And you know how they keep showing you a house or a temple that's right on the edge of where the river is flowing. And because of the force of the river, it cuts underneath, and people are screaming, Gaya, 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 gone, gone, gone. And within about, right in front of our eyes, within about, like, say, maybe 1 minute, the river just cuts underneath the foundations of whatever structure that house which where the people have all moved out and just carries it away like some, like I said, a collapsed pastry,
Hmm.
or cars that were just parked there, the river, the water keeps increasing and takes them away like small dinky toys. So we still know it's the river, but it's just that when it shows this form, it's really very scary. And subsequently, even if I were to go near even a very placid and a very calm river, I will never forget the scenes that I've seen and have been seeing every year in the monsoon, though so far I've not been personally affected by any flooding. It
Okay.
doesn't go from your memory that the same personality, the river, whom we revere and who gives us water, and it's so beautiful, pleasant, peace giving. And if it's a holy sacred river, then we even worship it and do chant mantras to it and take water if it's the Ganges. Even if it's just some minor river, the Bias, compared to the Ganges in the Himachal and Punjab. But having seen its Raudra form or Rupam, it's never going to go from our minds. We are not going to trust it when suddenly there will be a flash flood and it can wash our entire family away, wash us away, and so on. So
Hmm.
that's what's happened with Krishna. They may know it is Krishna, but the Rupam he is suddenly showing that we never forget it. People will tell you that even in relationships. Two people may be married for, like, say, maybe 6, 7 years. And then something provokes the man and he shows a form which he's never shown before. And the lady will tell you he calmed down and he apologized, but I can never forget this because I didn't know that he was capable of such anger. Because it makes such a lasting impression on our senses, most of all our mind.
Hmm.
Okay, the demigods and all the purport, the demigods and all the planetary systems feared the terrific manifestation of the universal form and his glaring effulgence and so prayed for protection. So they're praying for protection now. Look, right. Now, the next verse, 22. Rudra
रुद्रादित्या
Aditya Vasavo
वशवो
Ye
ये च साध्या विश्वेश्विनौ मरुताश्चोष्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्गा वीक्षन्ते त्वां विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे
Vismita,
रु-
not Sha, because we were back to that Vismaya root word, Vismita here meaning wonder. So Sa,
okay.
not Sha, right? Okay, twice more, please.
रुद्रादित्य
Aditya Vasavo
वशावो ये च साध्या विश्वेश्विनौ चोष्मपाश्च
Siddha
गन्धर्वयक्षासुरसिद्धसङ्गा
Sangha
वीक्षन्ते त्वं
Vismitas
विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे
Chaivasve. Again.
रुद्रादित्या
Rudraditya
वशावो
Vasavoye
ये साध्या
Chasatyan
विश्वेश्विनौ
Marutas.
Marutaschoस्मपाश्च गन्धर्वयक्षासुरा
Yaksha
सिद्धसङ्गा
Siddhasanga
वीक्षन्ते
Vikshante
त्वां
Vishmitas
विस्मिताश्चैव सर्वे.
Please read the translation.
Uh,
All
all the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishwadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder.
so there you are. You have a whole lot of personalities who are able to see this. All the manifestations, Lord Shiva, that I think means there are the 9 Rudras and so on. The Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, and the Vishwadevas. Let me just check who are the Sadhyas. Is it given here? We don't
Mm,
have any. Oh, do we
it
have
is
a what?
saying something like the Sadhyas are demigods in. I'm not sure.
No, Sadhya, it just says the Sadhyas. Vishwadevas, the Vishwadevas. Ashwina that we know, the Ashwini Kumaras.
Oh, it's saying
Maruta,
here Sadhyas and Pitas are invisible forms of departed souls,
okay, right.
and they are also created by Brahma.
Okay, so then they are
Srimad
also
Bhagavatam.
able to see this. They are also witnessing this.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 43. It says. This
Okay,
one,
thank you. Ah,
I think
there's a
it's,
reference to
yeah,
Sadhyas.
this one, this year. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and envy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of living entities, evolved from his own invisible form. From his navel, the hosts of Sadhyas and Pitas. The Sadhyas and Pitas are invisible forms of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma.
Okay,
The
fine.
Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Sadhyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha.
Shraddh. When people do Shraddh, you
Shraddha,
know
yeah.
the Shraddh ceremony. Okay, right. That's interesting.
Some other things are there, like this is some, I am Yamraj in
Canto
Bhagavatam 6.
6.
Sons of Vishwa were the Vishwadevas who had no progeny. From the womb of Sadhya came the Sadhyas, who had a son named Artha Siddhi.
Anyway,
Yeah,
we
there
leave
are
that
things.
now. Right. So we go on to verse 23. Rupam Mahatte
Rupam mahate bahuvaktra netram महाबाहो बहु बहुरूपपादं बहुदारं बहुदंष्ट्रकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्याथितास्तथाहं
Okay, now
रूपं.
this, yeah, Damshtra means teeth. So it's going to get really scary here. Yeah,
Okay,
we chant twice more.
okay.
Rupam Mahat
रूपं महते
Mahate
बहुवक्त्रनेत्रं महाबाहो बहुबाहुरूपादं बहुदारं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोकाः प्रव्याथितास्तथाहं
again.
रूपं
Rupam
महाते बाहुवक्त्रनेत्रं महाबाहो बहुबाहुरूपादं बहुदारं बहुदंष्ट्राकरालं दृष्ट्वा लोका प्रव्याथितास्तथाहं.
Okay, so here we go. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form. With its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, bellies, and your many terrible teeth, because it's going to tell us of the many creatures who are passing through the terrible teeth. That's coming later. And as they are disturbed, so am I. O mighty one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form. With his many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth, and as they are disturbed, so am I. So he's clearly disturbed. Earlier he was astonished, overwhelmed with wonder, then he becomes fearful, and now he's saying he's disturbed like the demigods. Talking of the river and how it changes its whole character and how we can never forget it. In Rishikesh, hoping that someday you'll be able to go there, in the area closer to Ram Jhula, not as far as Lakshman Jhula, but Ram Jhula. A lot of people, some I think wealthy, maybe they are merchant class, they are wealthy, don't know about, anyway, so they have built nice, comfortable, solid, modern, but not too ugly modern, maybe like say 30 years ago, concrete houses that literally overlook the river on this bank. And even when you're walking on the road that runs in front of the house, I've often felt envious because you can look into their hall. You can see the first floor, there are the bedrooms and some, there is some little tulsi, like you have a
Please,
Vrindavanam,
last.
and the lady of the house is lighting a lamp in the evening or doing her rounds around it. And you can, front door is left open because there's nothing to fear in those places. At least it was like that when I used to go 3-4 years ago. You can look in and you can see at the end of that front hall, the ground floor hall, there are more windows through which you can see the river. And it's literally overhanging like on a cliff over. And it seems it's not been affected at all so far by the flooding or whatever. Of course, I think when the river water level rises, maybe they just move to the first floor or they go away from Rishikesh for the time being. But now seeing what these rivers are capable of, the when if it keeps on raining and the flood water and the river changes course, that's the most scary bit. The river that is going like this, it just changes course. Once it decides to change course, and if your house happens to be in its path, after a while when the pressure of the swollen waters builds up, it just has such power that it just can just take away your whole house. So in retrospect, I don't know if I envy the people who chose to live there. Seeing what's going on in other places. Now, of course, it's subsided. You can never forget that. It's like I told you, that a wife who sees a different form of her husband's can never forget what may bring it on again. Okay. Right. Now in the okay, we are chanting verse 24 now, right?
Yeah. Nabah sprusham diptam
Deepta
anekavarnam Vyatananam dipta vishala netram Drishtva hi tvam pravyatitantar atma Dhritim na vindami samam cha Vishnu
again.
Nabah
Navasprasham
sprusham diptam
Deeptamane
anekavarnam Vyatanam diptavishalanetram दृष्ट्वा हि त्वं प्रव्याथितान्तर आत्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि समां च विष्णो
again.
नभः स्पृशं दीप्तमनेकवर्णं व्याताननं दीप्तविशालनेत्रं दृष्ट्वा हि त्वां प्रव्याथितान्तर आत्मा धृतिं न विन्दामि समां च विष्णो
Oh, okay. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many, Aneka Vaktra, many radiant colors touching the sky, because the universal form is touching the sky, it's so huge. Your gaping mouths and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. Remember, he was in the same plight, the Pandava Arjuna. He was in the same plight right at the start of the Bhagavad Gita, where seeing his gurus and his family members standing ready for battle, the very thought that he may become the instrument of their killing or their death. He said, my Gandiva bow is slipping and my hands are trembling, and he's overcome by, he's lost his equilibrium of mind, and he puts down the Gandiva bow. So he's now back again in that same situation, and this time with much more fear rather than remorse or sorrow. Your gaping mouths and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. Right, 25. Damshtra karala
संस्त्राकरालानि चाते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलासन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसीदा देवेश जगन्निवास
Again.
संस्त्राकरालानि चाते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलासन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसिद्धा देवेश जगन्निवास
Once more.
संस्त्राकरालानि चाते मुखानि दृष्ट्वैव कालानलासन्निभानि दिशो न जाने न लभे च शर्मा प्रसिद्धा देवेश जगन्निवास
Okay. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance. Seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth, in all directions I'm bewildered. We had told earlier in one of the lectures that I was listening to that it's not as if he's just standing there in front of the universal form. The universal form is appearing like, like a three-dimensional, I don't know what it's called. It's like you can see wherever Arjuna looks, there is only this universal form and as high as the sky. So it's a truly frightening situation. And he says here, please be gracious, I cannot keep my balance. Seeing thus your blazing death-like face and awful teeth in all directions, I am bewildered. Okay. Next is 26 and 27 together. Ami
अमी
chatva
च त्वं धृतराष्ट्रस्य
धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्र
पुत्राः सर्वे
सर्वे
सहायैवावनि पालसङ्गैः भीष्मो द्रोणः सुता पुत्रस्तथासौ
पुत्रस्तथासौ
सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः
सहस्मदीयैरपि वक्त्राणि
वक्तानि ते
ते
त्वरामनाविशान्तिः
त्वरामनाविशन्ति
दंष्ट्राकारालनि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशानन्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमङ्गैः अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः सर्वे सहैर्वावनि पलाशैः भीष्मो द्रोणः सूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः
वक्त्राणि
वक्त्राणि ते त्वरामनाविशान्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशानन्तरेषु सन्दृश्यन्ते चूर्णितैरुत्तमाङ्गैः
Once more.
अमी च त्वां धृतराष्ट्रस्य पुत्राः सर्वे सहैवावनि पालसङ्गैः भीष्मो द्रोणः सूतपुत्रस्तथासौ सहास्मदीयैरपि योधमुख्यैः वक्त्राणि ते त्वरामनाविशान्ति दंष्ट्राकरालानि भयानकानि केचिद्विलग्ना दशानन्तरेषु Sandrashyante churniter uttamangaihi.
Okay, look what he's seeing here. Can we just can you just read the word for word meanings, because they've
Yeah.
clubbed verses? Yeah, thanks.
A- Ami Ami these
These.
cha also Tvam you Dhritarashtrasya of Dhritarashtra Putraha the sons Sarve all Saha with Eva indeed Avanipala of warrior kings Sangehi the groups Bhishmaha Bhishmadeva Dronaha Dronacharya Sutaputraha Karna Tata also
Also,
Asau that Saha with Asamadhiyahi are Api also Yodha Mukyehi chiefs among the warriors Vaktrani mouths Te your Tvaramanaha rushing Vishanti are entering Damshtra teeth Karalani terrible Bhayanakani, very fearful, Kechit, some of them, Vilagnaha, becoming attached, Dashana Antarishu, between the teeth, Sandrashyante are seen, Churnitehi, with smashed Uttama Angehi heads.
okay. All the sons of Dhritarashtra. Okay, see, so it's not just that he saw terrible dumbstra or teeth. He's seeing something happening in connection with the teeth. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, chief soldiers, are seen rushing into your fearful mouth. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. Gosh. And some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. Please read the purport.
Yeah. In a previous verse, the Lord promised to show Arjuna things he would be very interested in seeing. Now, Arjuna sees that the leaders of the opposite party, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and all the sons of Dhritarashtra, and their soldiers and Arjuna's own soldiers are being annihilated. This is an indication that after the death of nearly all the persons assembled at Kurukshetra, Arjuna will emerge victorious. It is also mentioned here that Bhishma, who is supposed to be unconquerable, will also be smashed. So also Karna. Not only will the great warriors of the other party like Bhishma be smashed, but some of the great warriors of Arjuna's side also.
Okay, so just there's a subtle point here. Basically, through this very fearful apparition or vision that Krishna is granting Arjuna at his request, the point is being conveyed that where Arjuna decides to fight or not fight, dodge his duty or do his duty as a Kshatriya, the deaths of all those opponents is already decided, or the fate has been decided and is already assured. So Krishna is leading Arjuna to the realization that he is only going to be an instrument. Krishna is kind of showing like a kaleidoscope into the future. And they are all dying. Nobody is going to survive. Neither Bhishma, nor Drona, nor Karna, and the sons of Dhritarashtra. And
And
because they are shown flying trapped some of their heads inside the terrible teeth of this huge universal form.
I
Yeah, you
had
were
this,
saying. Yeah.
I had this, like, whenever I heard this verse, I was always wondering about one thing, which is that, like, in the Mahabharata, there's a part, like, Abhimanyu obviously, like, he obviously dies in the battlefield.
Right.
And
Arjuna's son. Yeah.
so Arjuna would have seen that also in the universal form, right? Like, and he could have
He
um,
apparently did not see.
not see
Krishna
that.
chose not to show.
Oh,
That is why such shock and sorrow when it actually happens.
okay.
Such shock and sorrow. Because what is really being, Krishna is leading Arjuna to this realization that he's just going to be an instrument in the deaths of his opponents. Now, Abhimanyu was not an opponent. Abhimanyu was on this side. It was
Only the
his fate.
option.
Yeah, only the opponents you're seeing,
And yeah,
including his great gurus and all that. Because Arjuna's problem was, or dilemma was, that he was refusing to fight and shoot at these opponents for fear that he would become guilty of killing them, and actually they were loved relatives and gurus and teachers to be revered. So Krishna is trying to dispel that illusion or delusion and say, anyway, their death is assured. But and you're just going to be an instrument. Now this principle of bringing our this of being just an instrument, because eventually he says nimittam matram, just an instrument. This is a very powerful principle, because in every situation, when sometimes we see the much bigger picture, it's like Arjuna is seeing the much bigger picture of a huge mammoth universal form. Like that, when we are able, if we are able to control our mind and we are able to see a much bigger picture, we begin to see that we have a very limited small role. And if we can specifically focus on that role of what Krishna is using us to do in a situation, everything is much more peaceful and successful. Problems start when people try to dominate the whole situation and twist and change someone else. That may not be the role that Krishna has assigned for us. To the extent that we have developed our understanding with Krishna more and more, and we are hearing and reading, and we are able to make comparison with the great personalities and the dramas that we read about both in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, this nimittam matram, just an instrument, and it also helps us maintain a humble position. Someone might say, oh gosh, it's only because of you that I did whatever. I became a devotee or I learned. But if the person to whom this is being said actually believes this and gets completely carried away and swollen-headed, we have a lot of problems in our movement, generally in all spiritual movements. But if that great guru or teacher is able to say, no, I am just a servant of the Lord or a servant of whatever. I am just here as an instrument. The Lord used me and brought me in touch with you at a particular time to provoke or revoke or reignite your earlier connection with the Lord. That's the right
Yeah.
understanding. Yeah.
Yesterday as in like we were having this Gita study session with
Uh-huh. You
my
mean with that workbook with S.B. Keshav
yeah,
Maharaj? Yeah.
Keshav Maharaj Swami. So with my parents actually. So we were discussing this point about like when it comes to like anger and all that. There's this
Right.
verse. I'm sure you've heard of this verse. It's like Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha
Sammohat.
Sammoha
Yeah,
Iti
exactly.
Vikram. That whole verse. So
How it goes down the six
yeah,
stages.
and it's like that I actually like that verse a lot because it says that from anger delusion arises, and then from delusion there is bewilderment of memory, and then when memory is bewildered,
Loss of
intelligence
intelligence.
intelligence is lost, and then when intelligence is lost,
One
then one
falls down
falls
again
down
into the
into the material
material
world.
pool. Right.
So that it like it because we were like sharing examples of various instances. Like I was giving examples of like in my own like job of somebody like
Right.
I'm thinking, why am I working, why am I the only person working at this time, why can't somebody else also work, that kind
Uh-huh.
of thing. And then I have to deal with a particular customer or whoever it is, and I'm in with that mindset, I'm like putting out my anger there, but then while I'm doing it, I lose a sense of balance and steadiness in the process.
Right.
And this happens with everybody, like my father's giving example of he's like a fast driver, so there's another person in a car in front of him, and that person is not moving fast enough, so he's like honking and then he's like in his
Right.
mind,
Right.
he's just like in his mind, like he's just thinking all bad thoughts about this person, like just move fast
Right.
and go ahead and
Right.
all stuff.
Right.
So it's like very easily what happens is that you lose your that balance and steadiness the minute you
Uh-huh.
start getting angry, or the minute
Right.
you start feeling that sense of like whether it is anger
Frustration.
or frustration or irritation or whatever it is and all stuff, you will get that this thing. So yeah, yeah, just to
Yeah. Yeah.
that has a lot of people I think suffer quite a lot because of that also. Like uh,
Mm.
that's a big issue with
Those
all of us.
six stages, the stages that lead down to delusion and anger, and but the starting point of that is lust, isn't it?
Lust is the
And when
main
your lust is not satisfied, it gives rises to anger.
life anger.
And even if it is even if you feed the lust, like say you try and get what you want, it is like a fire which no amount of fuel can put out. So the
Hmm.
fire just gets stronger, and then exasperation and frustration sets in because you can't have more and more and more of whatever it is you're lusting after, whether it's power or whether it's something else like of a sexual
And
nature. Yeah,
yeah, and also like we tend to feel like, anger will like is justified in one sense, but actually the thing is anger never leads to anything. It never leads to
constructive.
anything good, anything constructive, anything good
And apparently it does a lot of harm within our body. When we
within
get
our body.
angry
Yeah,
in those few minutes, many things really go wrong, isn't it?
yeah,
Especially as we grow older.
yeah.
People
That's something that is, yeah, that's something that's like, because also like if you have to stop ourselves from getting angry, it's what like you were saying about developing the sense of like humility, like having this very like I was listening to this video of Keshav Swami Maharaj, and
right.
in the video he was talking, and there was this, I think there was one small child, I
Uh-huh.
think, making some noise in the background or something like that. And it could have been very difficult because I like a lot of other people would have been like, would have stopped and said, can you give the child something, to play with or to
Yeah,
eat, or or try to stop the child from like saying anything. But he just continued talking the whole time, and he didn't stop. He just kept on speaking.
I
And
see.
he also said, like, I think he made a joke about it also, and he just moved on. And that takes a lot of what's the word, like
Self-restraint.
self restraint.
Self-restraint.
And yeah, and like the fact that and also like also pride also will get affected, no, but you don't pride of like any normal person will be like, I'm speaking, so I want everybody to listen to listen to what I say. But in
Right.
his case, he's like he probably doesn't have that. That's why he's a sannyasi or whatever. But
Yeah, no, but that's
uh,
great because I have seen other sannyasis get really irritated if children praying outside are screaming and the teaching gets disturbed,
hmm.
can't. We've had the situation in our classrooms in Mayapur because
It-
earlier the classrooms were in the area where a lot of children lived as part of families, and they would come out even if they had gone to school. The little children were brought to play in the sun when it was very cold winter time. So I've seen sannyasis get irritated and send us out to say, please ask them to go somewhere else because I can't concentrate or I'm old, and
if
that's
if you saw that, like if you saw somebody, if you saw a sannyasi saying that, what would your reaction, what would you think of that person?
no,
Like,
actually, because I would think that sannyasis also have their different
they're different.
natures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have their different natures. Somebody is completely placid like water, like calm water. Somebody is quick and short tempered. We see this even amongst all the personalities within our scriptures, isn't it?
Scriptures also, yeah.
And the same, like sometimes Srila Prabhupada could get really furious and he would really give it,
Hmm.
like they say, they give it to people. But there were other times when he would be in the midst of that anger, he would be so humble. There's this famous story of how he was going for a temple inauguration in Australia or New Zealand. In his early days, he'd made one visit, or the devotees, his disciples went and started preaching and then called and told him that, okay, you can come, the deities are there or whatever, and we can have. When he reached there, he found that it was just a big mess. There was nothing ready, nobody knew anything. So he said, okay, we are going to do a Havan, meaning like a yagya, and I need fruits because you know how they throw fruits,
Hmm.
chanting mantras, especially bananas and maybe even other fruit. The people were so naive and raw that they immediately ran and they prepared a big fruit salad and brought it for Prabhupada. So and then altogether the whole thing was such a mess, he began yelling and shouting. And to top it all, a kind of hippie type guy who'd been coming to the temple, who had no clue who Srila Prabhupada was, but someone had taught him to start chanting. Maybe he still used to do drugs and alcohol and all that, but that was not an issue. As long as you start chanting, then basically it cleanses the tongue and cleanses the consciousness. So he didn't know who this sannyasi is, this Indian elderly gentleman, not even that he's a sannyasi, elderly gentleman who is kind of firing everyone and getting so worked up. So this hippie guy tapped Srila Prabhupada on his shoulder and said, don't get angry, just chant Hare Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada, everyone was shocked. Everyone was completely shocked and taken aback, and that they should tell him that, gosh, this is the founder of the movement, how can you talk like this? But Srila Prabhupada himself was so dumbstruck by the simple, straightforward advice that this young fellow gave, that he said, you have said something very correct. And he quietly, his anger just cooled down, and he took out his java bag and he started chanting. So the same personality, at the height of his anger, was willing to take correction from a complete spiritually riffraff nobody. He was willing to take correction and come back to this. So I think that is the greatness of the person. Now, when I talked about a particular sannyasi who would be very short tempered, that is Jayadvaita Swami. He's taken huge Kadamba Kanana Swami's guru. That is
Okay, okay.
S.B.
Yeah,
Keshav
yeah, I've seen.
Swami's guru's guru.
Yeah, I've seen him on that. Yeah.
Yeah, long face,
Yeah.
glasses, very stern, very dry kind of humor, American, pretty elderly. So his nature, everyone knows. He's got very reserved. He doesn't mingle so freely. He doesn't care at all for getting dragged into grihastha situations where, sometimes they have to, when they are going, changing flights, they have to spend a few hours in some city, and someone will arrange for them to go and stay with the grihastha family. Invariably, the Indian grihastha families will line up a whole troop of relatives and tell the Swami, please bless him, and please bless him, and please bless her, and please let her get a marriage, and let her. Jayadutta Swami has no patience at all with any of this. He has no patience at all. So, in one sense, Jayadutta Maharaj is right. Through his impatience, he is making the point that that is not the purpose of life. That is not one goes to take association from a sannyasi. One goes to inquire about spiritual matters, to discuss spiritual problems, not to just kind of immediately start milking him to get material benefits. So he is right in his anger. Another person might have tolerated and compassionately said, these poor people, they're so bewildered by the material energy, they don't know. This is possible. So I think it's also got a lot to do
Depends.
with personality.
I think
Yeah,
yeah,
nature.
depends on personality. Okay.
We generally have this idea that a sannyasi means he never loses his cool, but that's not really true. At least in the bhakti path, there is so much variety. Why? Amongst the sakhis of Radharani, one or two were very haughty. Champakalata, she was a very angry, haughty. Vishakha, very scheming type. The rival camp, and the camp that had a very strong sense of pride, and she was like leadership qualities, though she was a sakhi, and a
Hmm.
gopi. So you're always going to have variety in the world of bhakti. That's something very important to remember. Okay, let's see if we can get up to verse 30. That is, do
Yeah.
28, 29, and 30, and then we can stop because it's close to 6. Yatha nadina
यथा नदीनां बहावो
vega
भूवेगाः समुद्रम् एवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति
samudramavibhavanti
तथा तवामि नरालोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राणि विजवलन्ति
Abhivalanti. Okay, again.
यथा
Yatha nadinam
नदीनां बहावो भूवेगः समुद्रम् एवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति
samudramavibhavanti
तथा
तथा
तवामि
तवामि
नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राणि
अभिज्वलन्ति.
अभिविज्वलन्ति
Once more.
यथा
यथा
नदीनां
नदीनां
बहावो
बहवो भूवेगा
भूवेगः समुद्रम् एवाभिमुखा द्रवन्ति
समुद्रमभिमुखं
तथा तवामि नरलोकवीरा विशन्ति वक्त्राणि अभिविज्वलन्ति.
Right. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors, gosh, enter blazing into your mouths. Okay, 29. Yatha
यथा प्रदीप्तं
pradiptam
ज्वलनं
jvalanam
पतङ्गा
patanga
विशन्ति नाशाय
vishnashaya
समृद्धा वेगः
samriddhivegaha tathaiva
तथैव नाशाय विशन्ति लोकास्तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धा वेगाः यथा
Yeah.
यथा
Pradiptam
प्रदीप्तां ज्वलनं पतङ्गा विशन्ति नाशाय समृद्धा वेगाः तथैव नाशय विशन्ति लोकास्तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धा वेगाः
Once more.
यथा
यथा
प्रदीप्तां
ज्वलनं
ज्वलनं पतङ्गा विशन्ति नाशय समृद्धा वेगाः तथैव नाशय विशन्ति लोकास्तवापि वक्त्राणि समृद्धा वेगाः
So I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. Gosh, very powerful imagery. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouth as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. Okay. Now last verse for today.
एलियासे
से ग्रसमानः
ग्रसमानः समन्ताल् लोकान्
लोकान्
समग्रन्
समग्रान्
वदनैर्ज्वलाद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रम् भासस्तवोग्राः प्रतापन्ति विष्णो एलियासे ग्रसमानः समन्ताल् लोकान् समग्रान् वदनैर्ज्वलद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रम् भासस्तवोग्राः प्रतापन्ति विष्णो
Once more.
एलियस्य ग्रसमानः समान्ताल् लोकान् समग्रान् वदनैर्ज्वलाद्भिः तेजोभिरापूर्य जगत्समग्रम् भासस्तवोग्राः प्रतपन्ति विष्णो
Okay. Look at that first word, lelihyase. Lelihyase, you are licking. You know that Ayurvedic lehyam, there's a particular, the medicine form, lehyam. There is in Ayurveda, there is kashayam, which is like a tonic which you have to drink. Lehyam is a gooey structure. Often for coughs, they give you a lehyam. So it is from that same root, lelihyase, something that has to be licked. Grasamana, devouring, samantat, from all directions, lokan, people, samagran, all, etc. Okay, so O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides. Not sure why he's being called Vishnu here. Does the term Vishnu come anywhere? No.
No.
Vishnu, yeah, Vishnu. At the last word in the verse.
Oh.
Yes, it does come.
Vishnu, yeah. Okay.
O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides. With your flaming mouths, covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible scorching rays. Gosh, it's getting more and more like terrible and fearful, no? And then I think this will go on till verse 42, where basically Arjuna pleads and asks for the two-handed form again. Right, this will go on till. So we stop here today because it's almost 6 o'clock. And we carry on from verse 31. And like this, if we can get up to verse 45 next time, because unless we get, we may not be able to do it because there are going to be more lengthy purports after verse 32. Because Lord Krishna starts speaking, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Okay, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll end the recording then.
Right, yeah.